Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and today I went ahead and pulled up good old XRPchat.com and pulled up some topics that I thought were pretty interesting, and I got a handful of them. What I'm going to do is read through these topics that I hand-selected and share with you my opinions on what's being stated. There are a couple interesting topics. There is a proposal to have, because there's this whole concept, and not that it was heavily gotten into in this particular piece, but somebody's proposing, that maybe there should be a limit to how much XRP Ripple could sell. Somebody else is proposing in a different thread that XRP charts, that the website that Ripple hosts, should just be taken down, and they've got reasons for that. It's just, I like reading through this stuff, and I appreciate a variety of opinions. So what I'm going to do is just kind of share some topics, first of all, that I thought were interesting, and some of this engaged in a little critical thinking here. And there's going to be some disagreements on some of the stuff from me, and I want you to know where I'm coming from on this. I enjoy thinking analytically. I actually legitimately think that it's fun, and so if I'm disagreeing with somebody, it's not coming from a mean-spirited place. It's coming from a place where good old Moon Lambo here is having fun just analytically thinking through things. And I actually, to the contrary, you know what I actually like? I like a variety of opinions, and I'm not offended if somebody disagrees with me. That's perfectly fine, and I hope that somebody wouldn't be offended if I disagree with their particular opinion. But I like diversity of thought because it helps people to get through the truth. When you talk stuff out, because what are you doing when you're talking? I mean, you're thinking through, trying to make sense of what is in the world and what actually makes sense. So I truly value that. But this one right off the top caught my attention, and it was a good point, so I just thought there's not too much to say on this, but I thought it'd be good to kick things off here. It's about Bitcoin and how slow it is. Actually, real quick before I get into that, though, if you would please delicately tap the like button and subscribe if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP. So this from XRP Chat here. The subject line is, just realizing how much I hate Bitcoin. This was posted several hours ago by ITC Dominic, and it reads, moving my XRP from exchanges to hard wallets on a routine basis as I try to make regular purchases weekly is fast. I just moved my Bitcoin to a new hard wallet, and man, I hate that wait. It took almost 45 minutes to show up. Talk about nervous. It caused me to check and recheck everything over and over and over. Have you guys been there before? This takes me back to like 2017, right when I entered the space, and it wasn't long thereafter. Bitcoin hit its all-time highs. Network congestion was absolutely crazy, and it was taking at times over 24 hours for a single transaction to make it through the blockchain. And for me, as a new crypto enthusiast at that point, and just getting to understand how the user interface works, which is not user-friendly, by the way. It's still not user-friendly. It needs to be much easier to send and receive crypto. But just going through that and then sending it and seeing that it hasn't arrived, and then I'm like, oh my god, I actually put money in this. What is going on? And then panicking for like a day. I actually have been through that. And there's no great way to check on what's going on with it that I knew of. I mean, maybe there is, actually. I haven't really had to deal with that because XRP is so fast, and that's what I'm buying now. But, yeah, I can definitely sympathize with that. So I thought I'd highlight it just because it's fun. Next, check this out. And there's actually somebody that watched one of my videos wanted this covered, and it popped up here again, so I'm glad that I can talk a little bit about it. This piece is, UK regulation is here, in parentheses, Brad talks about it, as in Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. And then there's a link here to his tweet, and so this person, this user, ESPRXP, and he wrote, Brad applauding UK regulator for providing clarity and leadership on the classification of digital assets. And here's a tweet from Brad, and this was yesterday. Applauding UK regulator at the FCA for providing clarity and leadership on the classifications of digital assets. They recognize Ethereum as the features of a hybrid exchange/utility token, and then he writes in parentheses, not a security, and call out the similarities between ETH and XRP. And I'm not going to get too terribly in depth into the whole regulatory side of this because in the first video I posted today, I went really in depth. So if you want to know what I really think about XRP and how it should be classified and how it should be regulated by governments at large, including the United States government, the federal government, go ahead and watch my video. Oh, what the heck did I call that thing? It was two videos. Oh yeah, it was something along the lines of XRP deemed at risk of being a security or something to that effect. You'll see it. It was from today. Go ahead and take a look at it. But if you really want to know my thoughts on that, just delve into that. I kind of intertwine that with thoughts on like Libra and what the Fed chair Jerome Powell is talking about. You may find it interesting because I have a perspective that I hadn't heard anyone flesh out, and I've been following this stuff for so long, and I have some insights that I thought maybe some other people hadn't thought of, at least from this perspective. So I shared it with you. So if you want to learn more, check it out. But on this video, I still will say we really could use the United States federal government jumping in and providing clarity like this. You know, I don't expect the government to ever jump in and say XRP is not a security. Well, to be clear, I don't expect them to say that it is or isn't a security. That's what I'm really saying. I think more likely what would happen, and this better happen at some point, is there's just legislation that encompasses everything, and then you don't have to call out every individual cryptocurrency out there, say this one is not, this one is not. Just have guidelines, and then it will become clear. And that's really what I'm looking for here. And the United States is kind of lagging behind in this regard, which is rather disappointing. Here's the actual piece here. I don't really need to read through it for the purpose of it, but I will link below in case anybody actually wants to check this out. All right, now check out this piece. This one I found really interesting on XRP Chat here from Crypto XRP. And the piece reads, the last few months, many of us felt the frustration of the price of XRP being pushed down by various factors, a development which contradicts all the good news that is flowing in. So what is happening, and what can Ripple do to put up a line of defense against the selling pressure? I would like to invite anyone to give their ideas and thoughts about this issue and help Ripple gain a better understanding on how to manage the present XRP escrow and help them to stabilize the XRP price at a higher level in order to improve XRP liquidity. And then he's got 3 bullet points here. Before I read that, though, I want to say right here, what this writer wants to happen, I don't think it's within the power of Ripple to make this happen. Even before reading the bullet points, which again I'll get into and I'll kind of dissect it just again as a critical thinking exercise. But with the scale of everything here, given that XRP is global, and given the fact that every cryptocurrency, including XRP, is tethered to the price action of Bitcoin, you'd have to manipulate Bitcoin to manipulate the XRP price. That's how tethered it is, even if it goes for somewhat long periods of times, trading within a narrow bandwidth before you can see those correlating price actions, movements. It still is stuck together. You're just not going to be, and you're not going to change that until the asset class as a whole matures and you see individuals parsing out on a much greater level the importance of individual cryptocurrencies as it pertains to their traits and thus the utility that can be achieved with them. Until you see that, you're not going to be able to do this. Still, I appreciate the mindset of this particular user, and so here's the points that they made out. And the piece continued. To start off, I made a list of possible ideas which could give this discussion some direction. All input is very welcome. So here's his first point. Ripple should yearly set a minimum price at least 20% higher than the market price for selling XRP to institutions, large investors, and banks. Also, Ripple should communicate this price publicly. If, for example, the minimum XRP price would be the same as the market price with a 20% uplift, then institutions would, to some extent, depending on the amount they want to buy in the open market because that would be cheaper. However, if institutions, large investors, and banks would want to buy very large amounts of XRP, and he writes in parentheses, more than available in the open market, then it would be interesting for them to buy directly from Ripple at a higher price. By doing this, Ripple creates an incentive for institutions, large investors, and banks to buy in the open market and support the XRP minimum price. And so I can certainly appreciate the angle from which this individual was coming from. It was good-spirited and just trying to find a solution for what is perceived as a problem. The volatility of the price and perhaps suppression even is in mind when writing this. But this would be counterproductive on a massive scale. It really would. If you're talking about inflating, you're artificially inflating the price of XRP if you're selling above. That's basically what you're doing, or at least you're trying to get people to buy it. But you know what would actually happen? You couldn't artificially inflate the price, which is basically what's being proposed here, because people just wouldn't buy it. Couple things. Ripple, you'd be disincentivizing adoption of the XRP ledger for sure. Another outcome as a result of this is, before that would happen, And some people would just be turned off by that. But what also would happen is understand that Ripple, although yes, they have a massive amount of XRP, just a ton, I got it, there are other entities that have crazy amounts of XRP as well, and some of them can sell. Exchanges have a ton of XRP. And so, if they thought, think about this. If you're an exchange and you have massive quantities of XRP and you know that XRP is being sold, even this wouldn't work, but even if some people were actually buying 20% above market value, if you're an exchange, you can come in and be like, okay, I'll sell it for you 15% above. But then what does competition do? The next guy comes in, another big exchange, say it was, or whatever financial institution, if they've got a ton of it, and be like, I'll sell you for 10. If they can make a quick buck, like stuff like that would happen, but nobody's actually going to buy above market price, and again, it would disincentivize actual adoption of the particular ledger. So this definitely would not work, and it would be absolutely, in my mind, counterproductive. And so to the contrary, what actually happens is the larger the quantity of something that you buy, the way it works in the real world is you actually get discounts. Now, as it pertains to Ripple sales of XRP, they do offer discounts of XRP, but only if there are strings attached to it. If there are selling restrictions, and maybe there's something else that we're not privy to the contract, so I don't know. But Ripple CTO David Schwartz decided, hey, there's no incentive to sell below market price if there aren't strings attached to some degree. Something that would be mutually beneficial because whoever's buying gets a lower price, but good for Ripple and the fact that it's going to help the XRP ecosystem. But they have no incentive to also sell lower for no darn reason to make some other company rich that can then just flood it on the open market and then hurt the XRP ecosystem. So they have no incentive whatsoever to do that either. So really, the only thing that makes sense without extra strings attached is to just for Ripple to just sell XRP at whatever the market value is of the day. Another reason this would be a problem is if you were to sell XRP above market value, you could imagine. Think about the ecosystem, how this works with XRapid in particular, as Ripple plans for XRP to use. Let's say that you're an institution that, let's say that you're a market maker and you want to buy a massive amount, you want to start a business. And you're now, if in order to get the quantity that you need to conduct, to create the quarters that you want to create because of the liquidity, you'd have to buy a large amount, and let's say that you had to buy it at a 20% premium while everybody trading on open exchanges is selling at the market rate. Well, if you begin conducting business in that way, what's going to happen to the spread? You've got this inflated price that you bought essentially at 20% above market value, and then you're supposed to make money on the buying and selling of fees, but the moment that you sell the fee or sell to conduct the transaction, you're actually losing a huge chunk of the XRP at hand. And so now market makers, they do take on the risk of volatility, but it's over a 3-second period of time, so not that big a deal. And most of the time, as long as you're suspecting there's going to be an overall upward trend, not a big deal. But when you're talking about starting at a point where you're paying 20% higher, that is not a tenable position. That would never work. And again, that's another reason that you'd actually be pushing down, what's the word I'm looking for? You'd be slowing growth, disincentivizing growth of the XRP ledger. That's it. So then his second point here was, his second idea is set a maximum amount of XRP that can be sold to one specific buyer and categorize the entities that can buy more XRP depending on their structural role within the XRP ecosystem. For example, a Tier 1 bank or central bank may buy more than Tier 2, Tier 3 banks, and large private investors much less publicly communicate this information. And so on this point, when I read through that, I'm not sure, do that to what end? The devil's in the details for stuff like that. I don't even see how that would conceptually help anyone. So a Tier 1 bank can buy a certain more, and then depending on what tier you're on, which would have to be completely fabricated out of thin air, then different quantities could be bought or sold, or sold rather, just sold. What does that even look like? All that does is muddy the waters because the XRP would be gotten from somewhere. If you could no longer get it from Ripple because they couldn't, because basically what you're talking about doing when you're doing that, you're artificially affecting the supply and demand structure. That's what you're doing. You're tampering with it. And so if less could be sold to entities that actually want it because there were artificial limits placed on it, that would affect the price of XRP. But if there's less XRP available as a result, you know what you'd actually be doing? You'd artificially be inflating the price. That's what you'd be doing because there'd be less available for sale from Ripple. Now, that said, it does get more complex than that because Ripple is selling their XRP over the counter, which means it does not immediately affect the price of the market rate of XRP because it's not seen on exchanges. However, it does affect supply and demand behind the scenes. You just don't immediately see it in terms of price, but it affects what is available, and it affects the entire ecosystem. And so any sort of artificial tampering in regards to that is going to be very counterproductive, and it will result in a lot more volatility. This would be exactly the opposite of what the writer of this is actually looking for. Okay. And then the third point here, the third idea is improve the XRP escrow by reducing all new XRP escrow releases to 100 million XRP every month. Also create the possibility to sell XRP prior to the release of the XRP still in escrow. Well, if it's escrow, you can't move it. You could set up a contract to sell it, I suppose, at a particular market rate. Maybe you could do that. I don't think that would be productive, though. It kind of goes back to the point that I just had this, because he wrote, again, improve the XRP escrow by reducing all new XRP escrow release to 100 million XRP every single month. Again, what you're doing there, it's the same problem with point number 2 that this guy had. It's your tampering with the supply and demand as it naturally works, how it organically works, and you're artificially affecting price. That's tantamount to what whales do, and we hate whales, don't we? So it would be like that on steroids. Like that this would not be a good thing to do. So those are my thoughts on this. And so I'll hop on to the next one, but I tell you, I learned so much of what I know today just from Twitter, and I mentioned that in a video the other day, but also from XRP Chat, and I really enjoy stuff like this. And I still, where I get most of my information, a starting point, is from people that are throwing the ideas back and forth on Twitter and XRP Chat. So even if I don't agree with something, I really appreciate that people are taking the time to get out there and share their opinions, because it helped me to be able to have a starting point to develop my own opinions on this stuff. And it's just fun to read through this stuff, I think, anyway. And so here's another one, and this is titled, the subject is Discontinue XRP Charts.ripple.com. And he wrote, potentially controversial. And it is fairly, I don't think anybody's getting heated over this, but it's a little controversial, yeah. So he wrote, and this is from C.M. Bartley, wrote, Ripple should discontinue XRP charts. After reading this thread, I started wondering whether we need XRP charts at all. There are many developers starting to work on XRP Ledger who, in aggregate, just about cover the range of what XRP charts offers. BitHump, at DevNullProd, at XRPScan. In fact, CoinTracker.io recently reported their transaction links to XRPScan. Okay, here's the thing, though, before I read the rest of his comment. What you're talking about is making it harder for the average individual to find the information that they're looking for. So if the others can do it, and even if there's duplicate information from my perspective, it doesn't make rational sense to make it harder in any capacity for people to have access to that info. And then he continues here. Wietse, so that's the creator of the XRP tip bot, Wietse commented in his recent AMA that he didn't understand why so few developers are working on XRP Ledger. One contributing factor may be the perceived centralization of development, and XRP charts isn't helping. Okay, perceived centralization. If you have that perception, either you're literally lacking knowledge, or you have the knowledge but you're a Bitcoin maxi and it doesn't matter what the facts are. If you're simply lacking the knowledge, removing data from the internet is not going to it's not going to get you to the ends that you're seeking here. And so I definitely would not be on board for that reason either. And then he wrote, additionally, most exchanges that link transactions to a Ledger Explorer use XRP charts, which is run, owned, and maintained by a company who claims they have no control over the network, but the fact their product serves as the de facto Ledger Explorer doesn't help their case. Well, I disagree with that too, and you just cited other sources for this information. And reporting network statistics, and I'll pull it up here. Here's xrbcharts.ripple.com. Reporting data, you kind of have to be a dimwit to think that pulling data from the XRP ledger, which is public, you'd have to be kind of a dimwit, in my humble opinion, to think that would mean that you have any power over the actual network. I think, me personally, the reason I don't think it's a problem is I'm giving people more credit, and I think that additional credit is deserved. I don't think that they're so stupid that just seeing that, because look, this is what we're talking about. Look on my screen here, if you're not driving. This is what we're talking about, and you're concerned that this page right here is discouraging people from using or from building on top of the XRP ledger. I just don't buy into that, which is interesting to me because if you look here, this is a very popular concept that he wrote here. You can see you got 13 hearts and a little trophy thanks thing here, and it was a very popular post. So a lot of people agree with this, as it turns out, and I happen to not. And it's okay to disagree. Like, it's okay for people to have different opinions. There's nothing, no ill intent about that. There's no aggression coming from my end, that's for sure. But anyway, oh yeah, sir. Discontinued XRP charts might actually help change the perception of centralization. I just disagree. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, on to the next one here. And this one, okay, this one is titled, and this is one where I've got sympathy for the individual. Convince me to keep my XRP. Okay, well, I'm not going to convince you to keep your XRP. I'm not offering buying or selling advice, but I am willing to share my opinions with this because I'm sympathetic to people that are in this mindset, this emotional phase. But so this individual wrote, "Hey all, I'm in a big dilemma. I used to believe a lot in XRP, but recently I have my doubts. I see so many coins increasing in value, going up to $10, that I never heard of such coins, and after small research, they all look silly to me." Okay, before I read further, you're finding that your research, like after you do your own research, that it sounds ridiculous. I think it's wise to go with your gut. That's my opinion. Don't buy or sell because I said that, but that is my opinion, all right? Anyway, he continues here, though. XRP for me is the most serious coin. They close some serious deals with governments and companies all over the world, but why doesn't the price go up? Well, that's quite easy. It's what I was saying earlier, so I won't completely rehash it, but it's just the whole concept of XRP price, like every other coin, moving in tandem with Bitcoin, and people within the asset class voting as a whole on whether or not cryptocurrencies are here to succeed or not. And then there are people that have done more research like me, and I'm not the only one, but there are other speculators like me that are actually purchasing based on utility, and that is why XRP is as high in the market cap list as it is. That is why it's number 3. That is being factored in to some degree. So as far as why it doesn't go up, it's an immature asset class, but it's not going to stay that way forever. So anyway, then he continues his piece. My friend says I should sell XRP and buy Chainlink instead. Okay, you do what you want in terms of buying and selling. Again, this is not financial advice whatsoever, but my opinion on this, it sounds like you're chasing dollars. And by the time you're hearing that it's a hot thing and you should buy into it, that's the last time that you should buy, just generally speaking, historically, whether it's a stock, whether it's a cryptocurrency, whatever it is, that's when you see something's hot, that's the last time to go buy it. Don't go chasing the dollars. Don't FOMO in. This is just my opinion, again, not financial advice. Because if you do that, you're probably going to see the price crater. And there's a lot of pump and dump schemes that's really dangerous. I think it's much safer to just stick with those coins that have utility. And if you have the confidence that humans over time will figure out which cryptocurrencies have actual utility, actual use, that means that they'll get adopted and the price will reflect the value at some point. So then he closes the thing out. What do you think? Can anyone here convince me with facts that XRP has a big chance of increasing in the next years? For me, it's like, don't even look at it with a timestamp on it. I don't know how long it's going to take for stuff to unfold, but I am a very patient man, and I will sit here and very patiently wait. This is my perspective on this. I don't care if it takes 5 years and then it starts going. Like, for me, I'm so stubborn unless I see something bad happen to XRP as an asset itself, like if there's some fatal bug in it that nobody saw, and then okay, fine, then maybe I jump ship, whatever. But for me, I am so patient that it could be hovering around this price level for years, and if it did, I'm not selling. I'm just not, because I'm again, for me, it's fundamentals. That is why I literally mean what I'm saying. I will wait, because I think that it comes down to patience. Those that are patient, if you pick the winners, you'll be rewarded in the end. And I think that I picked a big winner. That's just my opinion. And then close it out by stating, Chainlink has some good progress over the last months. I also saw that Facebook is cooperating with Chainlink for some sort of Instagram AI. Man, when you see some pump like that, just run. That's just my opinion. I'm just saying, guys. All right. And this is fun. This is my last topic for this video, and then I'm going to close it out here. And I thought it was funny because this is titled All These YouTubers. And so I was like, oh, that's actually me now. I've been doing this for half a year. I'm one of the YouTubers now. Awesome, cool. So this person wrote, they are running out of things to say about XRP. The same story that it will blast 50 cents, but based on what? News? LOL. I said it before, and you don't need to listen to YouTube channels because they want to sell you nanos, which, okay, that did make me laugh. So I know a lot of XRP community members that have YouTube channels. They do mention the nanos, but like to me, I think that's good. Like I haven't been running that. I don't know. Maybe I should actually, because I do think it's a good idea. But but I think that people need to get their cryptocurrencies off exchanges, and that helps lead people in that direction. I think that's a net plus. And if the YouTuber makes a little bit of a profit as a result of the sale because they helped lead somebody in the right direction, and they're spending their time doing this to, you know, whatever they're doing, entertain people, inform people, whatever it is. I don't mind them earn a little bit from that. That's perfectly fine. And again, I don't do this. I don't earn money from promoting nanos, but I have no problem with those that do. To me, it's a net plus in my mind. But anyway, and then it ends by stating, have to wait after September, but even then it won't go up much, but 50 cents, question mark. Nobody going to be happy about that. The real bull run will be mid or summer 2020. And so I actually responded to this because I just found it entertaining, especially now that I'm on the other side of things and I actually do have an XRP crypto channel on YouTube. And so here's what I wrote several hours ago. I wrote, I'm an XRP YouTuber and I'm certainly not at risk of running out of stuff to talk about. I think price is a fun topic, so I cover it sometimes, and then in parentheses I wrote, though I never make price predictions. But there's so much going on within the asset class. General crypto developments always get me thinking about what they could mean for XRP and the developers building on top of the ledger. There is an overwhelming amount of material to choose from, just my 2 cents. And that is so true. Like, as much as I sit here and talk, I've been doing this, I try to post at least daily, at least something, because I have the interest and the passion for it. I really do enjoy it. I got to tell you, I have never in over half a year been in a position where it's like, I don't know what to talk about. There's always something, because something is, you can always sit there and read something, because there's going to be stuff that's non-XRP related, and in that case there's like a crazy abundance. You could talk about any project you want, but I don't really do too much of that. I do feature some of the news in general, but for me, I'm always thinking, how does the news that's occurring here apply to my interest in my investment with XRP? And that's what I'm always trying to stitch together and see if there's any way in which it impacts it. Sometimes I think that there is some sort of topical correlation, and, you know, the way in which you can discuss it. And sometimes that's not the case, and that's fine too. But there's just so much to consider, and there's so many angles. Again, like I say, in terms of content, if you're like me and you're ingesting this type of content, I mean, you probably have a strong interest in it as well. And to me, it's just a good old fun. Like that's why I'm doing this. You know, this is certainly not my job. It's a fun hobby, and I've been doing it for a long time. And you know, when I started it, like, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do starting this channel, I was like, what should I do, like, platform wise? Because for a little while, I was like, do I just cover crypto in general and kind of spread out the topics I talk about, or do I just do XRP? Those are the two things I was considering. So it could have been more broad crypto news or just XRP. And I thought, well, I got to be honest with myself. My real interest is really in XRP, having done all of that research. And if I were covering crypto at large, yes, it would be a bigger audience, but I just felt like my heart wouldn't be as in it. It just wouldn't be, because I think that a lot of the other projects out there are frankly garbage. I believe in the asset class, though, and I believe in XRP. So I was like, you know what? It'd be cool to have like a bazillion followers, like some of the Bitcoin channels out there. But I was like, you know what? I'm into XRP. This is it, and I will be perfectly happy with my small little channel if it goes on like that forever. And that's why even after 5 months, and again, I started December of 2018, and after 5 months, so it was, a little over 5 months, so it was like the beginning of June, say, I had like 220 subscribers, and I thought that was cool. I was like, cool, 220 people want to follow me. This is awesome. And so it was a little over a month ago, and at this point, I've got something like 4,300, which is way more than I ever expected, by the way, so I'm completely humbled by that. But even at that, by YouTube standards, my channel is quite small. But yeah. So anyway, I just decided that I would stick with where, like, my heart was leading me, so to speak. You know, like, that's where my passion was. And so I was like, okay, even if there's less of an audience, that's what I want to do. And so I'm going to continue doing that. And because all this time, what I do on a daily basis, even before I started this YouTube channel, I was on Twitter. And I was spending like crazy amounts of time just reading through threads and reading back and forth of people on their concepts about XRP, and then counterpoints. Why is XRP bad in some people's minds? And I'd read the back and forth. It would really educate me. And so some of what I'm doing on this channel, especially in a video like this one, is the type of thing that I do by myself, and then I'd benefit from it. but I'd be the only one benefiting from it. But now that I have a channel, I can share this type of content with you, share what my thought process is on all sorts of different topics, and hopefully it's also entertaining, because if you're the type that's just into XRP in general and you put your money in it, you're probably going to find stuff like this interesting and informative also. I know I do. If not, then please tell me, because I don't want to bore people with content that just really isn't hitting the spot for the masses. So I take a constructive criticism. I could certainly, given that my channel hasn't had the number of subscribers it has for that long, I'm certainly open to a little bit of guidance anytime you guys think I'm getting off track, because hey, maybe I need it sometimes. Who knows? I'm just a regular old guy trying to figure this out, and I'm just completely humbled and blown away by the fact that 4,300 today people are subscribing to my channel, and I am so appreciative, because I never thought that would happen, and it happened so quickly over the span of a month. Over 4,000 new subscribers. So if you're one of them, or if you're one before, it doesn't matter. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That's all I got for this video, though. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Take care.